Hi, I'm going to show you how to create an I-cord cast-on. An I-cord cast-on creates this nice tidy I-cord at the edge of your knitting. Instead of working an attached I-cord at the end of your project, you work this I-cord cast-on right at the beginning. You can use it for flat or in the round knitting. And here we're going to explain both, but I'm going to demonstrate it on flat knitting. Let's get started. To begin, cast 4 stitches onto your needle. If you'll be working in the round, use a provisional cast on. Otherwise, a simple long tail cast on is fine. Now knit those 4 stitches as usual. But at the end of the row, instead of turning your work as you normally would, you want to keep this same side facing you. Next, slip those 4 stitches back to the left-hand needle. Be careful when you do this that the stitches are not twisting, that they're staying in the same orientation. Now, take the yarn from this far end of the stitches, bring it to the front, insert your needle like you're going to purl, and purl that first stitch. Bring the yarn to the back. Here's the tricky part. You're going to find the stitch below the next stitch on the needle, insert your needle into it, lift it up onto the left needle, and then knit into the back of that stitch. Don't worry, we'll show you that again. But right now what you're going to do is just knit those 3 remaining stitches. So you can see that now instead of 4 stitches on your needle, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you've cast on 1 stitch. To continue, you just repeat those same steps. You slip 4 stitches over to your left needle. 1, 2, 3, 4. You bring the yarn to the front. You purl the first stitch. You bring the yarn to the back. Then you find the stitch below the next stitch, insert your right needle from the back to the front through that stitch. It can be a little tricky to get in there. Lift it up onto your left needle and then knit into the back loop of that stitch. Now you get to just knit 3. Let's take a closer look at that increase. First, to identify the stitch below the next stitch, you're going to look for this little V. This is the next stitch on your left needle here, and the stitch below it is the V right here below it. Take your right needle and insert it through the right leg of that stitch, moving from the back of the work to the front. Lift it onto your left needle. Now it just looks like a stitch on your left needle, and what you're going to do is knit into the back of that stitch. That's it. You continue to cast on until you have the ultimate number of cast on stitches that you want plus 3. So if you want 24 cast on stitches, you're going to want to count 27 stitches here on your needle. So then to finish your cast on, if you're knitting a flat piece of knitting, you do what you've been doing, which is slip 4 stitches back to your left needle. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're going to knit 2 together twice. So knit 2 together once, knit 2 together twice. Then you're going to slip those 2 stitches back to your left needle and knit them together. Now the thing to keep in mind when you start knitting is that this side that's been facing you is the wrong side of the work. See these purl bumps here? This is going to be the purl side of a stockinette fabric if you're working stockinette. So to start your knitting, you're going to turn the work and knit a knit row. I want to make a little note here of how you would finish your cast on if you were knitting in the round. I'm on straight needles here, so you have to use your imagination a bit. But to finish your cast on for knitting in the round, you will slip 4 stitches back to your left needle. You'll bring the yarn to the front, purl 1, bring that purl stitch back over to your left needle. It's a little hard to grab, got it? And then you will slip it onto a double pointed needle. That's so you are ready to graft this end to this end. This would be a provisional cast on if you had been knitting for in the round knitting. And you'll graft those 2 ends together for a nice neat finish.